මට දෙන කනගාටුවක් නෙමෙයි. ජේෂ්ඨ සභාපතිතුමනි කෝපයක්.
අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම විපක්ෂය එකමුතු වෙන්න ඕනේ.
Hello there, very good evening to you. You're watching Primetime Weekend News live on News First. I'm Sonali Manikpatike. We start off with a look at tonight's headlines. The Tamil National Alliance says they are ready to give the post of Chief Minister of the East to the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress. Minister Dallas Alahaperuma says the definition of public trust does not mean the approval of the mistakes and flaws of ministers. Sarath Fonseca makes a statement saying that the election results shows that the opposition should unite. 52 Sri Lankans who got stranded at sea while attempting to illegally migrate to Australia brought to the Galle harbour. Former West Indian cricket batsman Brian Lara paid a courtesy call on the president today during his visit to Sri Lanka.
During the meeting, the president and the former West Indian star cricketer had held a long discussion on the progress made by Sri Lanka in the field of sports. Brian Charles Lara had stated that he is pleased to see a more elegant and developed nation than he had previously witnessed. The president also provided a tour to Brian Lara to the temple in the presidential residence and educated Lara on religious rituals. Brian Lara's brother and sister had accompanied Lara and attended the discussions as well.
Minister Dallas Alahaperuma says that the definition of the public trust does not mean the approval of the mistakes and flaws of ministers. The minister expressed this view at a ceremony yesterday in Pokunuwita Horana to celebrate the 61st anniversary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
The ceremony was held under the auspices of the Senior Deputy Chairman of the SLFP, Senior Minister Ratnasiri Wickramanayake. At the ceremony, Senior Minister Ratnasiri Wickramanayake awarded a souvenir to Minister Dallas Alahaperuma.
2005 හාමුදුරනේ 1,83,000යි වැඩි ඡන්ද. එදා ඉඳලා අපි මැතිවරණ 10ක් කරා. 2012 සැප්තැම්බර් 8 වෙනිදා
In 2005, there were 183,000 more votes. From then, we held 10 elections. On the 8th of September 2012, when we were holding the 10th election, how far had it developed? Trust does not mean approving everything that our people do. It does not mean the approval of the flaw made by the ministers, including myself. Not approving the Thuggery Act carried out by the sons of ministers. Is it not the trust placed by the people of this country on the leader Mahinda Rajapaksa to change this country? Is it not the trust that is being repeatedly shown? As a party, we should understand this.
මේකට ජනතාව අනුමත කරනවා. ඒක අපි පක්ෂයක් විදිහට අපි තේරුම් ගත යුතුව තිබෙනවා.
At the event, Minister Dallas Alahaperuma commented the absence of public representatives.
මම කනගාටු වෙනවා මෙතන. මේ 61 වෙනි සංවත්සරය සමරන වෙලාවේ
I am disappointed to say that at a time when we are celebrating the 61st anniversary and to which I am attending here as the treasurer of the party along with the senior deputy chairman, there are no public representatives. I am not actually saddened, I am angered.
කනගාටුවක් නෙමෙයි. ජේෂ්ඨ සභාපතිතුමනි කෝපයක් විරෝධයක්.
Speaking in Kurunegala yesterday, former Army Commander Sarath Fonseca stated that following the recent elections, the need for the opposition to work as one was shown.
Former Army Commander Sarath Fonseca met with a group of intellectuals in Kurunegala yesterday.
මේ රටේ පවතුන අවුරුදු 50ක් 60ක් තිස්සේ පැවතුන දේශපාලන සංස්කෘතිය
I don't believe the political culture which was in effect for the past 50 to 60 years in this country has done any good for the people of this country. I think that there is just one solution for this. This system took effect in 2010, which the common opposition was formed as one. And because of that system, I got involved into politics as well. If the opposition is to be strong today, it is definitely clear that according to previous elections over the years, the opposition must unite.
අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම විපක්ෂය එකමුතු වෙන්න ඕනේ.
The Balamandala meeting of the Kandy District National Youth Front was held today.
Several topics including facing future elections were discussed at the National Youth Front headquarters in Kandy.
මේ පළාත් සභා තුනේම
If you calculate the results of the 3 provinces during the elections, a majority will be parties that oppose the government. That is 51%. What is evident through this is that a good foundation has been placed for the future. Our organizations had less strength. I will not say no. There is no unity among party leaders and may be the reason for our loss. My message to you is that the future is not very dark. Anyone can be the leader of this party if they want. The United National Party is a party that gives an opportunity for the youth. We have a need to create a youth force to face the future elections. We should be prepared for the provincial council election. Youth representatives should come forward for this election. There are good youth leaders present here. Now you can start work. We will give you the opportunity from the youth front.
The joint opposition convened a media briefing today at the opposition leader's office in Colombo.
Representatives from parties in the opposition attended the media briefing. No mud was slinged. As usual, the Sirosa media dragged out things from the UNP and went shopping for the government. Every day the Sirosa media is doing this to the UNP. For who is this being done? For the people? No. We do not need Sirosa. We don't need that. We have other media.
And tonight on Barbarians at the CSC, we take a look at an analysis by former director of the CSC, Professor Laksiri Fernando, on the present state of the CSE. In an article written to a website, Professor Fernando notes that any manipulation of the CSE is a crime with repercussions on the economy and the people.
Barbarians at the CSE.
Professor Laksiri Fernando notes that the boom in the market until mid-2010 was more or less real, and thereafter what was seen was largely a created bubble manipulated by some players, which led to the market soaring to unimaginable heights exceeding the 7,000 mark. Professor Fernando wrote that when he was appointed as a director of the CSE, the market was booming for real reasons after the end of the war, but by early 2010 he realized that the market was getting overheated.
The most unusual was the rising of stock prices of some companies without much base of financial fundamentals. Those were not blue chip companies, but rather unknown ones. Those were the first indications of manipulation. As the CEO alarmingly reported, they buy, they sell, they buy, they sell. But we were, or at least I was, not aware at that time that they were playing the game among themselves to artificially inflate the prices.
As seen in this analysis depicting the ASPI and MPI indices, the market lost more than 40% of its value during the downturn that began in 2011 after it peaked above the 7,000 mark. Professor Fernando also spoke of the many interpretations to the market downturn since late 2010, but says that while there may have been other factors that contributed to the situation, what is overlooked is, quote,
the role played by the market manipulators themselves largely causing the downturn.
He says, quote,
it is possible that the insider trading must have been there for a long period. But what was new was the pooling system, probably by high net worth investors in connivance with some stockbrokers buying low price stocks and then selling among themselves and inflating the price in 2010 and then selling to the small investors in 2011. But when the small investors tried to sell in 2011 and 12 and make profit, the price obviously went down, and in the panic, the repercussions became accelerated.
Turning his focus onto market capitalization, Professor Fernando says that it was barely $7 billion in US dollar terms in 2007, but it went up to nearly $20 billion by late 2010, and it has gradually now come down to $13 billion. He says that this downturn is parallel to the price index coming down from the 7,000 mark to below the 5,000 mark. Professor Fernando's view is that this is not merely a market correction, but something going fundamentally wrong in the stock market.
The difference between market capitalizations from 20 billion to 13 billion must have gone somewhere. Because when the losers lost money by buying stocks at higher prices, the winners got the money to their accounts and must have invested somewhere or done something with them. Market capital cannot just evaporate.
The Colombo stock market is a gauge by which investors both here and abroad perceive the health of Sri Lanka's economy. There can be no place for market manipulation that can potentially devastate both investors and state institutions on which these artificially raised stocks may be offloaded to. Industry experts, market watchers, analysts and the general public are keeping a wary eye on these allegations of manipulation, particularly since the market has experienced it before.
Barbarians at the CSE.
Meanwhile, member of the Parliamentary Committee on Public Enterprises, Ravi Karunanayake, says that COPE would probe into the troubled Colombo Stock Exchange.
About 3 weeks ago in Parliament that we wanted the security exchange brought before the COPE, and the chairman and the members were so ready to bring them forward. Unfortunately, the elections came about, and as a result, there has been a delay. But all what we want to do is to ensure that these wrongdoers are brought before the Public Accounts Committee, and in order to ensure that what has gone on and to ensure that the actual situation is brought about. Today, there is an attempt trying to stealthily cover this up, and this we will not in any way allow to happen. We are hoping to do this tomorrow, or on Tuesday when Parliament reopens, and at that particular moment, if anybody is trying to ensure that this is being covered up, we will ensure that those people also will be highlighted and ensure that nobody will allow to ensure that this goes unabated.
The Tamil National Alliance and the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress held a discussion today with regard to establishing power in the Eastern Provincial Council. Parliamentary Group Leader of the Tamil National Alliance, R. Sambandhan, said that the decision to hand over the post of Chief Minister to the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress has not changed. At a media briefing held today, he added that the decision was once again emphasized on.
Meeting with the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress in the morning. It was a constructive meeting. The Muslim Congress briefly informed us of the discussions they've had thus far with the government. We were also informed that a final decision had not yet been taken. They have thus given us a mandate to form a government. That was clearly the expectation of both the Tamil people and the Muslim people would get together and form the government in the Eastern Province. We were prepared to accept a nominee of the Muslim Congress for the position of Chief Minister. They have agreed that they will further discuss the matter amongst themselves and that they would revert to us early.
Thereby, the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress have become a decisive factor to establish power in the Eastern Provincial Council. Meanwhile, today marks the 12th anniversary of the founder of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, M.H.M. Ashraf. M.H.M. Ashraf was a constant voice that rose up on behalf of the rights of the Muslims in the East. Party activists say that there is an issue whether the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress would work towards the aims of its founder at a time when the SLMC has become a decisive factor to establish power in the Eastern Provincial Council. Over 140,000 people voted against the government. If the government wanted support, the Beetle Leaf should contest the election. The people have voted against the expectation of the government, ministers and others. The people have rejected this government. Votes were cast for the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress to establish a provincial council that would be against the government. To create harmony among ethnicities, the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and the Tamil National Alliance should come together and establish power. That is the expectation of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress. During this election, we cast our votes for the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress. We did not vote for the Beetle Leaf. If we wanted the Beetle Leaf, we would have rejected him. If Rauf Hakim would leave the government and join the Tamil National Alliance, we would support him.